We started to write an intro for our next guest before realizing we couldn't describe him any better than this.
Secretary of Energy Chris Wright, recommended by Doug as being the greatest oil man anywhere in the world, because I wanted Doug for that job, energy, and Doug said, no, sir, there's a man named Chris Wright. I said, who the hell is Chris Wright? He said he's the most talented oil man anywhere in the world.
Most talented oil man anywhere in the world. Thank you for joining us again, Secretary Wright. So, how long until all this oil in Venezuela makes a dent in the cost of a gallon of gas here at home?
It's a continual process, but I mean, gasoline prices today are inflation adjusted, lower than they've been in 20 years. So I think President Trump's done a great job of driving oil prices down. The sales of oil since we've taken over the marketing of Venezuelan crude, we've already sold hundreds of millions of dollars of oil last week and have $500 million in an account. So things are moving fast.
Something we tracked a lot during the Biden years, they emptied out the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to try to lower prices. Could this oil from Venezuela be used to fill it back up?
It could. We're going to bring much more market onto the global oil market, which of course will drive down the prices of oil, gasoline, diesel, and of travel. So that's great for all Americans. Yeah, and of course that makes it easier to fill our Strategic Petroleum Reserve back up, which the president's committed to doing, and we will get done.
You guys summoned the leaders of all the biggest oil companies in the world to the White House to talk about all this week. Some of them sounded nervous that things in Venezuela could change again and they would be out billions of dollars of equipment or investment, including ExxonMobil's Darren Woods. We have the bite.
We've had our assets seized there twice. And so you can imagine to re-enter a third time would require some pretty significant changes from what we've historically seen here and what is currently the state. If we look at the legal and commercial constructs and frameworks in place today in Venezuela, today it's uninvestable.
How do you get somebody like Mr. Woods on board?
So, of course, Exxon will be the last one to come back. They're big. They've lost their money twice. They move at scale, but they're larger and slower moving. Look, at the real story there was tremendous. We had Chevron, Shell, Repsol, Eni, four of the biggest oil companies in the world saying we will immediately start ramping up our investments and growing our production. I've got a crew of American wildcatters that said we'll go down this week and start checking things out. We're ready to go. So the speed at which we'll see investment and the change in the trajectory of Venezuelan production is breathtaking. The Darren Woods quote from Exxon, I think, is kind of the outlier the other direction.
And if it made these oil company CEOs feel better about going back into Venezuela, would President Trump consider some kind of a U.S. security force, U.S. troops to go down there and make sure that all their people and all of their stuff is safe if things change again?
President Trump's foreign policy has been very much about commerce and trade and not soldiers and guns. I mean, peace in the Middle East, a 25-year plummet of Venezuela, and now their trajectory is going to be changed with just a quarantine of the oil to allow us to control the flow of funds. So, no, I don't think that's on the table. We don't need to twist Americans' arms to go back in for business opportunities in Venezuela. Security situation on the ground is going to be dramatically improved 1 month into this.
Can you tell us, so this meeting, it was like 2 hours long. A lot of ground was covered. There was, the 2-hour part was just what the press could see, and then there was a private part of the meeting. How many of these oil companies say that they are ready to go back in now?
I would say at least a dozen. You got 5 big ones that are there that are going to rapidly increase their production, and probably another 6 to a dozen that are like, hey, we're ready to go. When can we send people down to check things on the ground and figure out where we're going to operate?
The president's plan, according to various reports, could lower the prices of oil, he says, to $50 a barrel. But oil companies don't really like when the price of oil goes down too much. The Wall Street Journal has something that once it gets down below 50, these companies don't really make any money. Did any of the CEOs say that they are worried about their own profits?
Yeah, look, the oil and gas industry right now is in a tougher time. President Trump is been encouraging the growth of supply successfully, I might say, and that's pushing down prices. They're fighting to remain profitable at this level, but President Trump's constituency is the American people. It's not the oil and gas industry or any industry. It's just the American people. If you want oil prices to go back up and everything to become more profitable for the oil and gas companies, you got to get the Democrats back in power. Joe Biden was fantastic in driving oil prices up and gasoline prices up, record profitability for the oil and gas companies, but that's not good for the American people. This is a president of the people, not of the businesses.
I hope nobody clips that and takes you out of context. Energy Secretary Chris Wright tells Fox News you got to get the Democrats back in power.
Only if your top goal is oil company profitability.
Right. Secretary Wright, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right.